Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. How is everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Big Hero News. Kia ora, Chewy. How are you? How are you?
Good evening. I'm good. I'm very sleepy. What's in the box? What's in the box? Pat, tell me what's in the box. If it's not Gwyneth Paltrow's head, I'm not interested. Merchandise. I mean it's not Gwyneth Paltrow's head, but it's pretty good.
If the left goes, the left wins.
Nice.
Delivered to me today for people who have participated in our merch drop. I will get them. Attempt to get them. There you go. There's a hoodie. Very cool.
Nice.
I'll be looking at getting them picked up on Monday. Will be my objective. We'll see how we go. Kia ora whānau. Thanks for being back with us. Appreciate you being with us. We're a little bit rushed tonight, and I apologize if anything seems a little bit out. But the software that we use, it's called StreamYard, and it had an update. And so I got down here at 10 to, and I tried to get into my system, and it went, "We can't see your camera." And I was like, so what was it, Chewy? 60 seconds before we started? As the music, I don't know if you noticed what I was doing, Chewy, but as the theme music was playing, I was turning on my lights behind me. That's how close it was. So thank you, StreamYard. We love the software. It's beautiful. But when we got to get an update like that, probably my rule is I should probably have tried it on this afternoon, tried to get the system going this afternoon, just as a safety. But live and learn. So here we are back again to another semi-normal show where we've got a few stories for you. We are going to touch once again this week on the situation with Julian Batchelor, because I have, after the conversation we had last night, and if you're with us, thank you, we enjoyed you being with us. I noticed in the chat last night there was lots of people talking about Julian Batchelor going on another media platform. And I had a look at that today, and I was like, there are some things he's saying that don't seem to make a lot of sense to me based on what I've witnessed with my own two eyes. Not even what we were told, but what I've witnessed. So I think it's important for us to actually hold to account someone who claims to be someone who thinks lying is a bad thing. Now, I would actually say that my assertion or my assessment or my guess is that he probably is aware that there was an event at one of his gatherings which could end up being an assault charge, and he's probably trying to distance himself from it by, shall we say, rewriting history somewhat.
Surely not.
We'll get into that.
Surely there's not puckering buttholes and backing up wildly going on by Mr. Julian Batchelor.
We'll get into that as we go through the night. But right now,
delicious.
Let's say hello and thank you to all our lovely patrons. We appreciate you being on board. I feel like we're about 3-4 minutes to the show, and I've just started to kind of calm down from all the rush beforehand. Hello and welcome, and thank you to all our lovely patrons. We appreciate you to death. We love you to bits, and we thank you for being on board, especially in these early stages of this show. I know those of you who've been with us for a while think we've been going forever, but comparatively speaking, we're a very new, very young show. So we appreciate people jumping on board sooner. We appreciate everyone, like we said to Hannah and to Victoria last night, we appreciated them trusting us to come on to the show, trusting us with their story. So. We appreciate you patrons, like trusting us, You actually literally dip your hand in your pocket and you give us some money, and it's your money, and you could do other things with it, but you're trusting it with us to help us, pay for the odd thing here and there to help us keep this thing going. So thank you so much, and we appreciate you. And if you want to be a part of what we do, if you enjoy what we do, if you want to support what we do, lots of ways you can do it. One of the ways is to head to patreon.com/Big Hairy News. The other way you can do it is to head to any of your podcast platforms and look up #BHN and check out our audio podcast, which is pretty much the same as the video podcast, but it's in audio form. I don't really know what that means, but I know. So I didn't mean to leave you behind there, Chewy. It was probably too advanced.
No, you've lost me.
Out completely.
Does someone come around with the images later? Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Okay. Let's have a look. I want to show a couple of things that kind of tagged into last night's conversation. We like to do this. So we got to come up with some kind of jingles and phrases for what we do. This is sort of a replay of Twitter from the last 24 hours. So we had this conversation last night with Victoria Jakobs and also with Hannah, and they were at the event. One was the person who was assaulted, and one was one of the organizers of the event. And I took some of the footage that most of us have seen, and I subtitled it. And at the end of the show, I decided that I would then also post that subtitled message so everyone could see it for themselves. So there it is there. And I just wanted to bring up a couple of comments that have gone through the afternoon. So Chewy, you can comment to these as well. This is like Twitter in the real world. We can just talk them out rather than having to type them out. And you can have more than 260 characters or whatever it is. So I put this piece up after the show last night, and people are using it and spreading it around and passing it on. And someone with the Twitter handle Dunning-Kruger says, "Not an assault, perfectly reasonable. Use of force to eject a trespasser, handled a dispute, a disruptive asshole perfectly." And then other people chimed in and said, in fact, Julian Batchelor's left testicle chimed in. Not quite sure what the right testicle was doing at the time, but left testicle said, "Stop writing shit, you idiot. They have no right to put hands on her." To which Dunning-Kruger listed this legislation and said, yes, they do. Now, this is the legislation about defence or land or building. And it does say, you can remove someone from your property. One of the things it says at the end, though, is the people who are removing someone from the property, they must not do this. If he or she does not strike or do bodily harm to that person. So you're allowed to use this legislation. You're allowed to move someone from any land or building, and everyone lawfully assisting him or her acting by his or her authority, right? You can do that. But there's quite an important part of this. If he or she, i.e. the people who are removing the person, does not strike or do bodily harm to that person, to which I then responded to Dunning-Kruger, in the law you cited, it says someone can eject her being Victoria, providing the person removing, quote, does not strike or do bodily harm to that person. This is just one of the injuries they did to Victoria when they assaulted her. So that would be bodily harm. So you're wrong, correct? To which Dunning-Kruger,
and I'm guessing they acknowledged the fact that they were wrong, withdrew and apologized, right?
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
was the rest of that story.
What they actually said was she can lay a complaint if she thinks that her bruise constitutes bodily harm, right? Law likely to dismiss such complaint when a person bringing it refused to leave voluntarily, to which my response was, never has the phrase Dunning-Kruger been more unlike. So... so
that person disappeared in a puff of smoke.
Yeah, this is the thing that I've realized in the last couple of hours. You know that people who watch this, we don't really ban people very often. I did ban someone on my Twitter. I've been on Twitter since I think 2009. I was the first person on Newstalk ZB to start using social media on air. Everyone else was afraid of it because they thought, people won't call the phones. Whereas I was using Facebook and Twitter before any official sites were doing it. I was using it on air and people were communicating with me. So that's a long time. That's 13, 14, 15 years. I've banned 3 people, blocked 3 people in that whole time. I did one the other day to someone, and this is where I've come to right now. This is more of a personal thing, I guess, is I don't care if we have a disagreement. I'm pretty hard to offend. But if I show you unequivocal evidence, say, for example, that if you do bodily harm, you can't use that legislation. There's actually you can't dispute that. It's indisputable. The only thing they could have said, and I wonder if they'd say, I don't believe that was from that event. Okay, they could have said that, and I've got no evidence to put in front of them that would convince them of that, but they didn't say that. So what I think I've decided for me personally, it's not a carte blanche rule, is if someone is a bad faith actor, I'm not going to engage with them anymore. And if they're so bad faith that I go like, well, look at this, here's the evidence, look at this, here's the evidence, look at this, here's the evidence, and then they willfully go straight to where they were anyway. I mean, oh good Lord, someone's killing your dog. Then the block party might have to come out a little bit. I don't know. It's not my MO to block people, but I mean, yeah, it's the dishonest actors. Like I say to people all the time, and I've said it on the show, you'll know this, that if I'm having a debate with someone, the first thing I say to them is, are you prepared to change your position? And if they say no, I say, well, thanks, I'm not really looking for an argument. And if they say yes, I'm like, okay, let's engage in a conversation of wits.
Yeah. I love a good argument. Like people that know me know that very well. But there's a point where it's just like it devolves and you're just basically slapping each other and there's no there's no exchange of views. It's just two people in a trench shouting at each other.
Yeah.
And God, for your own mental health, just block and move on. Like I'm pretty liberal with my block list, just because otherwise I get in fights all the time.
Yeah.
But I like to have people that are outside of my bubble that do have different points of view and do like discussion rather than insults and offense. And I think that's a big part of being online, right? Is that there are people that are just there to troll and just make the experience shitty. And there's no rule that says that you need to put up with it. If it's not legit, hit the bricks. It's fine.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll probably start doing more is ignoring people, maybe not even blocking them. There's a gentleman at the moment who's actually been on the show, who's going off at me at the moment because we've involved Byron in the show. And he's going on and on and on and on and on about Byron funding, people who literally wanted to murder Jews. Now, Byron's talked and actually written about the mistakes he made being a part of a group back in the day. He's actually acknowledged it and he's apologized for it and he's withdrawn from it. But it's not good enough for this person. In fact, I doubt this person even knows that. I basically, I can be a bit cheeky. I basically told them I'm going to stop engaging with them because I think if I start punching down, it's bullying. So I'm not going to bully them by punching down and continue to converse with them. And one of the things this person did recently was told me how wrong I was because Victoria used a thug's veto, like in this thing, a thug's veto, and I know nothing about free speech. It was a thug's veto. Now, I want to talk about this tonight. And this person I'm not engaging with anymore doesn't know what they're talking about. They think they know everything they're talking about. They don't, claiming that this has been a thug's veto. Someone asked that on my Twitter feed today again. So I actually explained to people what a thug's veto is. Now, it's really important to know what a thug's veto is because there's two words. One is thug. The other is veto. The veto part is quite important about that. All right. So if anyone else has not really heard the term thug's veto before, in America, they call it the heckler's veto. It's when one party makes it impossible, often through being excessively loud, for the other party to speak or share their message. Victoria's protest is not a thug's veto, as the speech wasn't vetoed. Julian Batchelor's speech wasn't vetoed. It went ahead. An important part of the thug's veto is the veto part, i.e. a cancellation of the event. What Victoria did was a disturbance and an annoyance that temporarily disrupted the event, right? So it doesn't matter who it was, but this person who's got a hard on for me at the moment, like every second tweet this person sends out is a quote of what we've been doing. A thug's veto, the veto part's really important. A veto means that it's a cancellation of an event or speech. Julian Batchelor didn't get his event or speech cancelled. He got it disrupted. This is not an example of a thug's veto. I go on in the tweet, as you can see, to say, even if it was, which it wasn't, but even if it was, I think the group has lost a moral high ground for responding to a legal act of disruption and defiance by a criminal act of assaulting Victoria. So even if it was, which it wasn't, a thug's veto is not illegal. It's arsehole-ish and it's bullyish and whatever else you want to say. It's not illegal though. assaulting someone is. So even if it was, which it wasn't, you've lost the moral high ground anyway. But yeah, I mean,
it's a weird argument. That's the right to free speech. Again, it's not an argument to a right to free speech. It's an argument for a right to uncontested, unchallenged free speech. I must be allowed to speak without interruption, without critical comments. I must be given equal footing with other better discussions. It's no, don't agree.
Yeah, and look, this is just so for clarity for people who aren't quite clear on it. And I'm not trying to patronize, because someone in my Twitter feed did say, "What's a thug's veto?" It's that. It's basically using your voice or your. It doesn't have to be voice. You can shut things down. Like you could lock people out of a room. You're being a thug, to stop something from happening. In the event of Victoria, nothing was stopped. It is not a thug's veto. So we're clear on that now. Just want to make sure everyone's clear on that now. Cool. Okay, the other thing that we're going to do tonight, and to be honest with you, being really, really frank with everybody, it's been an amazing week, actually. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. It's been an amazing week here on the show. I think you feel the same, Chewy?
It's been a cracker week.
But it's also been a fucking exhausting week. The number of hours I've spent on prepping the show and getting things ready and all that kind of stuff has been exhausting. So we're going to open up Discord tonight again, and the links are now in all the chats. They're on Facebook, they're on YouTube, and they're even on Twitch. And if you want to come and have a chat with us after we go through a couple of stories, you just head to that Discord and get into the waiting room. And when we get a chance to pick you up, we will. And, if nobody does, then we'll have an early-ish night. Which will be fine as well, because I've got a birthday party tomorrow night that I'm cleaning the house for after the show. So there you go. So Discord is open, predominantly and only really for people who want to have a chat with us tonight. God, please help us that the system hasn't actually blocked that out as well. I can see my voice seems to be working in there. Sure, you'll need to jump in there as well if we get anyone coming in.
Just sorting that.
But you're welcome to jump in there. And for the last kind of 10, 15 minutes of the show, if anyone wants to have a chat, you can come and have a chat, or if not, you don't have to come and have a chat. All right. A couple of very quick things as well, because this was something I was going to talk about last night, which we didn't because of the show. Simeon Brown has given us a bit of evidence as to how National is going to run the country. So I should probably show you a tweet that Simeon Brown put out yesterday. Simeon Brown put this tweet out yesterday, right? And he said, and this is a screenshot, so this is not linked to him. This is a screenshot. I'll just do that, shall I? Simeon Brown's tweet said, Auckland 4 months, because in Japan, this tweet says, only 2 days to fix this road. How many days would it have taken in your country? Japan, 2 days. Simeon Brown says Auckland 4 months. Now, why he's picking on a right-wing mayor, I don't know. I don't know what that's saying about right-wing groups or people running countries or cities. But there's a couple of things that are wrong about this. It wasn't 2 days to fix it. It was 2 days to fill the hole. Now, it was only a week or so to fix it. That's still amazing time frame, right? Yeah. However, unfortunately for Simeon Brown, what's been happening since then is it's starting to sink again. So
good.
The fast fix that Simeon Brown has pointed to as an example is failing. So that's right, folks. Vote National. They'll give you a quick fix that'll fail really quickly, Chewy.
We've been saying this for months. It's everything National does is sugar hit. It's the quick payoff and no long-term thinking. So yeah, look, that tracks. I also love these sort of meme comparisons that Simeon seems to go for. Like his whole thing with potholes, right? Is he tried to get pothole of the week going for a little while, but every time a pothole was posted up, it wasn't a national road. It was it was a city street or something like that. And it's like, cool, that's got nothing to do with the government. There's local body stuff. And yeah, as you pointed out, he's taking it as a dig against the government. It's actually a dig against Wayne Brown.
Yeah.
One of the guys on his team.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's and where in Japan was that? How big was the city? How much tax do people pay? What's the roading budget there? There's no comparison. It's retarded, but it looks good in a meme, so Simeon's gonna just shit it out.
Well, but it might look good in a meme, but then actually, like we've talked about when it comes to, I did one on the Spark stock price the other day. You know, it's $200 million wiped off
Yeah.
Spark. Good on them. 3 days later, it was worth $100 million more. You know, actually, when you follow things through, that's when you get the truth. And following this through is the quick fix of Japan is failing again. Here's something else that we were going to talk about last night that we didn't get time to talk about. So let's just bring it up for people now, because I'm sure this is a bit of a rumor. Taxpayers Union thinks that Nicky Hager is writing a book about it. Nope, says Hager. The Taxpayers Union has issued a statement saying it has, quote, heard from sources that Nicky Hager is working on a book about the organisation, saying we are aware of him approaching former members of staff, asking them to breach confidences. The celebrated journalist has rejected the idea, saying the TPU is jumping at shadows. TPU chairman Laurie Kulbach invited Hager to put any allegations to them, pledging it would not seek to injunct the publication. Hager has in the past claimed he did not put allegations to the subjects of his books on the basis they might injunct him. We won't do so. In fact, we're happy to be interviewed by him so he can put any allegations to us. The lobby group, founded in 2013 by Jordan Williams and David Farrer, has no secret agenda. He said the Taxpayers Union has an agenda, but it isn't secret. We stand for lower taxes, less waste, and more accountability. The TPU wanted, quote, to make sure no one can be left with false impressions about who funds the Taxpayers Union and what we are about. Hager, Kubiak claimed, is coming for us because we are successful. This happens, or these people are such blimmin' snowflakes. They all think that people are after them because they're making money and stuff. We are successful. We are successful because we have hundreds of thousands of subscribed supporters and more than 23,000 donors. Are they successful? What have they actually achieved? In reality, yes, Mr. Speaker.
They've never published their books.
Never ever.
There's a constant criticism of theirs when they mention their subscribers and who signed up, is that they won't publish the lists.
Right.
So yeah, sure. That reads like a Taxpayers Union press release. And it's just, wouldn't that be a fantastic way to do that, right? Oh, Nicky Hager's coming at us because we do all of these things very well.
Yeah.
You know, and here's a guaranteed couple of paragraphs that'll get printed because it's all scandalous. And Nicky Hager's probably sitting at home drinking coffee, going, I don't know what the fuck's going on.
I do actually wonder, maybe if we were more professional, I would have thought about doing this. What has the Taxpayers Union actually achieved? I mean, because the dude that was just quoting there was saying we're very successful, and then he linked it to the amount of money they're bringing in. If that is their measure of success, how much money they're taking in, fine. That basically means you're a commercial entity. But I wonder what laws they've actually got enacted. Because if you're a lobby group for taxpayers, some taxpayers, then what change have you affected in that world? Now, I'm asking that question out of ignorance because I don't know. But I would see that the success of a lobby group would be to have successfully lobbied things. Now, I suspect if they have, they'll be pretty gross things based on their ideologies. But I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of any things that they've actually enacted. Okay, so they got lots of people. So they've got lots of people supporting them. So they're successful. If that's your measure, but I would have thought if you're a lobby group, your measure would be, you know, how much legislative change you've got put through.
They don't like any public spending. Right, they certainly don't like public spending towards anything around multiculture or just culture in general. They pile on playwrights and musicians and the creative arts. Well, actually, not all creative arts, just weird, you know, some creative arts. Big fans of the ballet,
just not
symphony
brown
orchestra. Stuff. Yeah, absolutely. It's important at this point to remember that the TPU is not an organic organization that sprung up through a grassroots movement or anything like that. It is an astroturf group that is set up to do right-wing talking points. The TPU is behind Groundswell. They set up their website. They set up their organization there.
Yes.
It is dirty politics. That is what they are there for. They are sponsored by overseas tobacco companies. That's where a lot of their funding comes from, and they are just there to go after left-wing ideals and left-wing parties.
Much like the Free Speech Union, in my honest held belief. And
Absolutely.
I think as well, it didn't say it in that spin-off piece. It was more like a blog post and an article. But I have also read over the last 24 hours that the alleged book is actually talking about who funds them. That's what the alleged book from Nicky Hager is about.
That would provoke a response, wouldn't it?
Yeah, who funds
shit, they're coming for our wallet.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, the as you say, the press release, the sounding like a press release didn't seem to make it sound like they were too scared. But maybe that's a good double bluff. I wonder who is their biggest funders and where it all comes from. If it's international money, where is it from? So that's that. Look, Nicky Hager's claimed it's not happening, but that's the tea, as the kids would say. That's out there at the moment. That it could be a book based on the funding of the Taxpayers Union. So
Nicky Hager doesn't miss, as far as I'm concerned. Like dirty politics. Like, you should have all read it. It's incredible. And you know, the investigation he did into what went on in Afghanistan and that sort of thing, incredibly important things with big far-reaching consequences. So
Hollow Men,
you know, Hollow Men again, amazing. So if he is, I am going to be intrigued.
I've got a copy.
If he isn't, it's still going to be hilarious.
I've got a DVD copy of Hollow Men signed by Don Brash. How about that? I've also got a wooden spoon signed by Sue Bradford. That's what I did I collected weird and opposing things.
If I was Nicky Hager, right, I would just go, look, TPU, they're wrong. I'm not writing a book about them. I am writing a book, however. And he just brings out a children's book, like cartoon book or something like that, but just strings it out for months, just makes TPU lose their mind.
All right, there is another story I want to talk about tonight briefly. Look, there's a lot going on. The tax announcements and ideas from the Māori Party and stuff today could have been an issue, but it's not tonight. We're not doing it tonight. I'm sorry if people were waiting for it. This does touch on it a little bit, because it's just I find this such a hilarious story. Like, National Party at the moment are going around kind of going, look at these terrible ideas from Labor to try and make shopping for the average family cheaper. Labor and their stupid backwards ideas. And I thought, hang on, this is the party, National, who wants to help with the cost of living, who says they want to put money back in families' pockets, who say they're the party of tax. And Labor hasn't announced this policy, but if they were to announce this policy, it would kind of do all those things. I just wonder, they're talking down, and I don't know. To be honest, it's not a massive idea. How much do we spend on fruit and veggies every week? 20, 30, 40 bucks? It's $4 or $5 you're saving. It's not nothing, but it's not going to be the difference between someone paying their mortgage or paying their rent or not. But I think it will, if they bring it in, which I think they likely will, I think it will be popular because it feels big. It won't be big in your pocket, but it feels big. It's like, we're giving you tax money back. You're not going to be paying as much tax. And that goes against National's narrative of being the tax party, along with all those other things like the Greens being a better tax party than National, but this one as well.
Yeah. I mean, I hear some conflicted views on parts of this. A lot of what Te Pāti Māori has come out and said is great. And I know that there is consistent suggestions that they remove GST on fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. One of the things, and you know, I don't know enough about this sort of stuff to say, yeah, that's absolutely correct, but it feels right to me, is that one of the strengths of the GST system in New Zealand is that it's relatively low admin. Like, it's just on goods and services. That's it.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of exemptions. And a lot of very smart people around that have sort of said, the moment we start taking GST off and on certain products, there's a lot of admin that goes into it.
But they do it elsewhere.
Then, are there any guarantees that the supermarkets are going to pass on those savings? That's the other part of it.
Well, we've got a grocery. Hey, maybe we've got a grocery commissioner now. Maybe this has been thought out for quite a long time. Get the grocery commissioner in place, and then do this. Then you've got someone to check up on those things. Perhaps. Yeah. Perhaps. So, okay. Should we have a look at the actual story?
Yeah.
Or should we just keep talking about it and basically cover everything off? We'll have a look at the story. Here we go.
Tēnā tātou katoa, good evening. Lots of talk out of Parliament today that the government could soon drop GST from fruit and veggies, making them 15% cheaper.
The National Party says it found out from a government leak. Whether that's true or not, the leaks voters will care most about are the ones they put in soup with potatoes. Here's political reporter
Let's
Amelia
see what
Wade.
you did there.
Chippy in the chocolate factory. The Trans-Tassie besties chugging hot chockies, a moment on the lips, forever on the hips, be damned.
So what would the sugar content in one of these be?
It's certainly not as healthy as fresh fruit and veggies, which Chris Hipkins is not ruling out making cheaper.
Are they good? I'm on a diet.
Are you?
Yeah.
Too many sausage rolls?
Too many sausage rolls.
Hipkins possibly giving the scoop away during a hot chip chat on Paddy Gower Has Issues last night.
Would you consider removing the GST on potatoes so chips would be more affordable?
I think more affordable chips would be a very good thing.
Today, again, refusing to rule out cutting GST off fresh produce.
Can I say at the moment, with them talking about their tax policies coming out, they shouldn't be ruling anything in or anything out. I guess they've just done that with capital gains tax and wealth tax, but what a great way to send every reporter in New Zealand crazy. Can you rule this out? I'm not ruling anything in or out. No matter how crazy and bizarre it is, you could keep going further and further as a journalist.
Yeah, I agree. He shouldn't have ruled anything out. Just, this has been our criticism over him ruling stuff out. And now it just seems like he's ruled out the big stuff and is being all coy about the little bits. Dumb.
Yeah.
I'm not announcing our tax policy today.
Chris Hipkins is set to soon announce a policy, a failed policy from the past of...
Just explain that to me. When has this been a failed policy from the past? When did any government take GST off fresh fruit and veggie in New Zealand?
I'm enjoying National talking about failed policies from the past. That's kind of their whole bag. So maybe they yeah. But you're right. It's GST just went on. There's never been a part where it's been, food's been exempt from it.
Yeah. It's a bizarre thing to say. I'd like to know more about that.
Reducing the GST on fruit and vegetables.
National perhaps doing it for him.
They're not.
Finance Minister Grant Robertson has previously poured cold water all over taking GST off fresh food.
If it's low and middle income households, there are better ways of us delivering support to them, which is what we've done.
I understand that Finance Minister Grant Robertson has been rolled once again by the Prime Minister.
Economic experts hate it.
I think it would introduce complexity into our tax system that we don't need and wouldn't necessarily be effective.
Look, it's more complex without question, but other countries do it. Like, I'm not saying it's as clean, but other countries do it. And there's going to be this bullshit now. It comes up in the story about, but what's a fruit and what's a veggie? Well, that's actually quite easy. It's fresh fruit and veggie. So I think the example is about to come up like frozen corn versus fresh corn. No, fresh fruit and veggies. It's actually not that difficult.
Off food.
Maybe.
Just broaden it out. Again,
and I think that's the Māori parties.
Oh, is it now? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, I think it comes up in this article. Yep. Should we keep going? Because I'm pretty sure that's what Māori one. Yeah. Yep. We'll see.
At achieving what people think it will.
As I've indicated, I'm not going to comment on a hypothetical policy that I haven't announced.
Te Pāti Māori's very real policy goes further to cut GST off all, Kai.
That includes Coca-Cola.
Yeah, I don't know what's everyone's obsession with Coca-Cola. We've refused to get into the debate on how and who should be dictating to families how they should eat.
Part of its radical wealth redistribution pitch, promising an income tax-free threshold of $30,000.
Who are we watching, remember? Who are we watching? What's this reporter? Who is she? What is she associated with? The radical. Oh, yeah. Radicals. We've got to get that word out there for the brown ones, the radical.
Giving every New Zealand worker up to $72 back a week.
We must redistribute wealth back from the wealthiest to our working people now. Incremental is a total cop-out.
It would pay for that by increasing tax on earnings over 200k, increasing corporate taxes, land banking tax, a vacant house tax, a very, very big promise to end all tax evasion, and a wealth tax.
Wealth tax won't be introduced by a government that I lead and that the Labor Party is part of.
Ending poverty has to be a bottom line. It has to be.
Our bottom lines, if parties want to make wealth tax a bottom line for being part of a government or not being part of a government, then ultimately they'd need to find a governing partner that was willing to go along with that.
Hipkins ruling taxes out and probably hoping to watch the votes pour on in.
Okay, Amelia, could this be a winning recipe for Labor?
Meh. It's a meh.
Well, something like this does have the potential to be an election game changer. Policy wonks hate it because you have to define what is fresh produce. Is sweet corn in the fruit and veg aisle in? Is frozen corn in the freezer aisle out? This has even led to lawsuits overseas. And the government's own tax working...
Yeah, fresh fruit and veggies. Is it in the freezer? Is that fresh? No, it's out. It's actually, I mean, like, you could probably get into a definition about like the dried prunes. Are they fresh? I think it's if it's in the grocery aisle, you know, in the produce section of your supermarket, it's fresh fruit and veggies. It's actually not. When they get stuck overseas, like I remember there was I think called a Battenberg cake or something in the UK, something like that. And there was a huge debate about it, and they took it to court and they proved that it wasn't a cake because something like biscuits didn't have VAT on them or something like that.
Yeah, I think Pringles had a thing as well. They went to court to prove that they aren't chips.
Yeah,
because they're not. They're potato. You know,
but that's a far different line from apples to frozen sweet corn. Like the line's much clearer. An apple that you can pick up and go, or frozen sweet corn, or frozen peas that you go home and cook. So anyway, we'll just finish this for them.
Group in 2018 found that taking GST off food benefited higher income households more because they spend more on food. But this is very, very, very popular policy. In our last News Hub Read research poll last year, we asked about taking GST off food, and a whopping 76.6% of people said that they wanted to see that. After its frankly shambolic year, Labor is starting to look as unappealing as Brussels sprouts. It needs that juicy policy, and something like this could mean that voters once again see it ripe for the picking.
It's just, look, I mean, it's an interesting idea. It'll probably be popular, but reporters, man, this is like watching two third division rugby teams and trying to pitch it like it's the All Blacks versus the Springboks. It's, you know, it'll be good headlines. It's probably good fodder to say, save you a bit of money. But like I said, for you two, I don't know, I might spend, like when all the kids and everything said, we might spend 150 to $200 a week on food, of which a third, $60, 50 for $60 might be fruit and veggie. So 15%, you know, on that, it's not nothing. It's $9 on $60. But it's not going to be life-changing. It's not going to be like, oh, phew, cool. There's the retirement scheme back on track again. It's something like whereas you know, taking GST off all food, there's your $200. So that's going to be more like $30, you know, or the interest or the changing the, you know, having no tax on the first $15,000 or $30,000, then there's $70. So there's more exciting ways to look at these ideas. This is okay. It's all right.
Yeah, I think ultimately where my head's at is just leave GST alone and look at other ways of, you know, a higher tax-free threshold or something else is basically a cleaner, less complicated way to deliver savings to people. Because as we've seen in this story, it devolves into what is a food, you know, and straight away,
I thought you were going to say something else. Then what is I thought there was another word coming.
I'm also all for taxing Brussels sprouts harder.
No,
they're a dreadful, dreadful thing.
I've had them twice this week.
Ugh, no,
roast Brussels sprouts.
They should,
fantastic.
They're disgusting. The other thing that I want to point out, right, is Te Pāti Māori talking about taking GST off all food, right? And the first question out the gate is that includes Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Because we all know Māori eat junk food all the time. They drink too much Coca-Cola, and it's KFC food. You know, it was a step away from that, and it's just like, yes, it's off all food. You don't need to ask clarifying questions if it's in the supermarket. We're taking the tax off. You know,
but that's an interesting question. I'd like to know that. The one you just said about KFC is like, do we include our food we buy from a restaurant, or has that got GST on it, goods and services? Because you pay GST on the people, the service. Do you pay on or is it just the stuff that you buy from the supermarket? In other words, stuff that you use to prepare meals.
I think that's a clear one. But again, you've got to spell the stuff out, right? The restaurants should be making savings because they're not paying GST on the food that they buy to make the food.
So
I don't know.
All the meals should go down by 10, 15. They probably wouldn't go down by 10% because some of the meals are obviously the salaries to make them. But every meal in the country, if they did that, should go down by 8% at every restaurant.
Yeah, it's just like we keep on coming back to that, right? They mentioned it in the story. What an enormously popular policy this would be. Like, it's an easy win. Just someone pick it up and run with it. And we've got two of the supporting parties basically doing that, picking it up and running with it. And the Labour Party and Hipkins is standing there like he's negotiating from a position of strength. And I just don't think he is. Like, there won't be part of a government that I'm part of. And it's like, yeah, okay, so there's two answers to that. You're not in government, or you're not the leader.
Yeah. We always ask that question. We always go, I wonder if in the back of their mind they're kind of going, well, I can step aside and somebody else can take over and I'm just a caretaker. You know, that's always, like they said that about Jacinda forevermore. And then eventually when they did step over, like they said, they're saying it every year. And then it's like your broken watch, your broken clock is right twice a day. It's like eventually when she did step down, they were like, aha, I knew it, even though they'd said it for the previous 6 years sort of thing. And it finally became true. And everyone was like, we knew this was coming, what she was going to do. Ridiculous.
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing is you could just go after the supermarkets. Like, and that's, we had Labour's policy of having the supermarket commissar come in, and then nothing's really happened with that as far as I can see. And the supermarkets are still making enormous profits, even though they said, oh, those super profits were accidental. We didn't mean to. We'll put more specials out there. And they just haven't. You know, it's frustrating.
And they did a price freeze for 3 months without telling the public that they purchased 3 months in advance. So it wasn't really a price freeze. It was based on what they just purchased, and they got some good prices. And anyway,
but it's good. We're getting Woolworths now, changing the signs on the supermarkets.
Very good.
Forget
actually
about it.
Should we have a look at some of the chats that have been coming in before we go on to finding out how much of a liar Julian Batchelor is?
Yes, absolutely, because that's going to eat up the rest of the show. Sarah here says 30,000 tax-free threshold is effectively universal income subsistence policy. A lot of experts believe we will get there eventually. Frozen veg is nutritious, sometimes more nutritious than fresh veg that's been sitting on a shelf. Taking GST off fresh food is another way of putting sugar tax on junk food.
Oh, yeah.
Good points.
Yeah.
What else have I got here? Greens talk about their policies. Te Pāti Māori talk about their policies. National talks about Labour policies that haven't happened. Bang on.
Well, we've said this all the way through. The left in general, they put out policy and the right respond to the policy that the left put out there. That's pretty much, historically speaking, the Western world over, what happens is the left makes policy and the right responds to the left's policy. So gotcha.
Yep.
I like that. That's very good though.
Absolutely. DIY Guru points out this entire news story is based on an allegation made by National. How about news that's based on real events rather than reckons?
I saw hang on, let me just have a look, because actually a part of that, I saw a tweet that I was going to mention from someone else about that as well. Here it is. GT Roberts said this. The rumor I heard was that National and ACT want to increase GST to 20%. So can One News please report that rumor, says GT Roberts. So I haven't heard that rumor, but if that's a rumor as well, if they're just making stories now based on rumors, then why not? If it is one, let's get it out there.
Yeah. I just as an aside, as someone that at the time worked in an EB Games, I will never forgive National for putting up GST because it meant that I had to stay behind 4 hours to reprice every game in that store by that fraction that it went up at, and I was just like, aren't we just going to eat the difference? Is this really worth my time? A couple of months later, the prices went back down again, but I'll never forget.
That was that promise that John Key made that taxes were never going up, wasn't it? And then he figured out a way to
no new taxes, just a bigger normal one.
Speaking of lying, let's talk about Julian Batchelor. Now, Chewy, you know how careful I am with my accusations and my words.
Yeah, way more careful than me.
For me to say someone is lying, right, a liar, then the evidence has to be pretty nailed down. You know what I'm saying? So Julian Batchelor was on with Karen Plunkett, I think 2 days ago. We got told about it yesterday because we had a very good show last night where people were telling us about how Julian Batchelor was crying on the platform. And so I went back and I did it so you don't have to. Trust me, it was hard. I played it super fast forward. So if I've missed one of the quotes, I apologize, but I got 3 of them. This is Julian Batchelor. I've got 3 clips here, and this is his account of Victoria Jakobs being removed, who removed her, and who decided she was to be removed. Have a listen.
We got going with a meeting, probably 5 minutes into it. This lady suddenly put a whistle in her mouth, started blowing it furiously, and the people in there were just so upset about this because we explained the rules to them. If you disturb the meeting, you will be taken out. This is a private meeting. All the rules were explained. She fired up straight after the rules were explained to her. A couple of people just who were sitting kind of near her just took it into their own hands. We usually have the police take them out, but these guys were just so annoyed and frustrated by these people who are so disrespectful, so just trashing everybody's right to free speech. Pulled her out of the chair. They pulled the whistle out of her mouth and then pulled her out of the chair. She wasn't punched or anything. They just grabbed her by the scruff of the neck and then she fell on the ground and they got her by the legs and they just pulled her out of the building.
Now, you got to bear with me. I've got a few things to show you here. So this is what he said. This is a part of the quote that he said. The salient part is in red. For people who are listening, we have a quote up on the screen. You can go back and you can have a look at it. I probably need to be in that view, don't I? So we can see the screen. The salient part of what he just said was there was a couple of people just who were kind of sitting kind of near her and just, ready, took it into their own hands. They did it. Took it into their own hands, right? So the people that did it took it into their own hands. We usually have the police take them out, but these guys were just so annoyed and frustrated. So that's really clear, right? He's saying there were some people that just acted on their own in the meeting. Now, you would think, slip of the tongue, interesting. But in this maybe 10-minute interview, he's basically said it 3 times.
We say to them, you broke the rules, I'm trespassing you, and we're getting the police to take you out. That's what the protocol is. But these couple of guys just said, this is so bad, we'll just do it ourselves.
Okay, so you do have the
again, here's the quote. The red writing is the salient bit. But these couple of guys just said, this is so bad, we'll just do it ourselves. So the people in the audience did it themselves. They did it. They made the decision and they did it. Right? Remember, this is the second time he said this in the same interview. There's a third.
They should leave it to the police. But you know what? We can't say what happens because sometimes people in these, we've got some big guys who come to these meetings and they're farming types and they don't muck around type of guys. And you take a risk. If you muck around in our meetings now, you take a risk that you could be manhandled before the police get to you. It's not my fault. It's just how it is. We say to people, don't manhandle protesters. Let the police do it. But sometimes things happen quickly, and that's what happened with this lady with the blue whistle. The guys just took it into their own hands, and she was hauled out. That was it.
The guys just took it into their own hands, and she was hauled out. Now, this is a longer quote. The bit in red is but that's not the full quote. But I took the salient part out and it's in red. You take a risk, you could be manhandled before the police get to you. It's not my fault. It's just how it is. We say to people, we, the organisers, say to people, don't manhandle protesters. Let the police do it. But sometimes things happen quickly. And that's what happened. This lady with the blue whistle, guys just took it into their own hands and she was hauled out, and that was it. We, the organisers, we say don't touch people, don't manhandle people. That's what we always say. But sometimes the people in the meetings, they just do it by themselves. We don't want them to do it. We haven't asked them to do it. They just do it by themselves, Chewy. Shall I keep going?
Notoriously hard to control is your pocket Nazi that comes along.
But Julian's the person who stands up the front and says, we don't want them to touch people. We don't do this. And he's kind of saying, he's not quite saying it's a bit unfortunate, but he's kind of leaning towards it's a bit unfortunate that these guys in this meeting, they took it off there. No one encouraged them to do it. They just went off it by themselves and they decided to do it. Let's have a bit of a look at the actual, this is the clip people have seen before. Let's have a look at the whole clip first.
Touch me. Don't touch me.
Because remember, I've actually put a, and look, he's saying, we get the police. This is Julian Batchelor saying, let's get the police. You won't be able to hear him as clearly. I'm turning it down because of the whistle, because she's even disrupting us, Chewy. So Julian Batchelor at the start is basically saying, get the police. We've got to get the police to come and arrest her. So he's right. That's what he said. We tell the police, look, someone should be filming her, is what Julian Batchelor is saying. Make sure people are filming her, is what he's saying. And then he speaks to someone called John. You got to go and get the police in here to arrest her. And then, these guys that just take it off, they don't get told to do anything, just off their own bat. They just do it off their own bat. And Julian Batchelor is going around telling all the media at the moment that they just do it on their own. They don't actually, we don't actually encourage them or anything. What do they say? They just took it into their own hands, Chewy. That's what they did. They just took it into their own hands. I had nothing to do with it. Until, of course, he said to people in the room to take the whistle off her. Right there. Take the whistle off her once. Take the whistle off her. No, take the whistle off her. Don't worry about it, he said. Take the whistle off her. 5th time, take the whistle off her. Doesn't quite feel like it's just these guys off their own bat, Chewy, to me. Just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel quite like that. And then of course he actually tells them to get her out. The last comment about to come up. Okay, take her out, please. Take her out, please. So that was the last comment. So let's just have a look at this again. I won't play the thing, but you can read it with us. Julian Batchelor says, take the whistle off her. I think 5 times. He says, yeah, take the whistle off her. Nah, take the whistle off her. It'll be all right. Take the whistle off her. And then I think another time, take the whistle off her. That doesn't feel like when he said that, these guys just took it into their own hands. Because what I hear is someone instructing from the front what to do. He then went on to say, quote, okay, take her out, please. So, Chewy, I'm confused because he's telling the media that, we always get the police to do this. That's our policy. We don't want people manhandled. We never tell people to manhandle people. And sometimes people take things into their own hands. But that doesn't seem to be the evidence, Chewy. How do you feel about that?
I feel that that's pretty cut and dry, that Julian Batchelor is a dirty liar. He's telling big fibs, big porky pies, that he is man that not really negotiating from a position of strength as well. Maybe not playing a straight bet.
The other thing that confuses me about this whole thing, Chewy, is Julian Batchelor is so he finds it so important that you have to tell the truth all the time. Like he genuinely thinks it's important. This is an Anglican priest that went into one of his protests, right? I'm going to play about the first 30 seconds for you, which is not an interaction with Julian Batchelor, but then he has an interaction with Julian Batchelor. And guess what? Julian Batchelor thinks lying is the worst of the worst. You should never, never, never lie.
Just the Anglican priest.
So?
In about 20 seconds, he starts talking to Julian Batchelor.
Well, people might wonder what you're up to if you're kicking the local priest out of a room. Oh, I don't know about that. Seems like the biggest crowd's outside.
Here he comes.
So you're actually trespassing, and you weren't on the list, and you told us you were, so you lied as an Anglican priest.
You lied.
Very good testimony, my friend.
There's just when he's talking.
So if you can't hear it, he said you lied and you're an Anglican priest, and that's not a very good testimony. Now, for people who don't know, that's a Christian term for meaning, showing to people outside the church world what an honourable person you are. If you lie, it's not a good testimony. I'll play it again.
You lied as an Anglican priest. Not very good testimony, my friend.
There's just when he's talking about lying, there's nothing true in this trash that he's putting out here.
Nothing justifies lying.
Did you get that one?
Nothing justifies
lying. Julian Batchelor. I'll play it again.
Putting out here.
Nothing justifies lying.
Well, then why are you lying in here, Julian? Why are you lying in here? Why are you lying in this?
Nothing justifies lying.
You accuse me of lying, and there's nothing but lies in this book that you're putting here.
What would Jesus?
know,
what would Jesus think of you, Anglican priest, because you lied? What would Jesus think of a liar? Because nothing justifies lying. What would Jesus think, Chewie?
An actual priest.
An actual priest.
Jesus think of you when he said to welcome the stranger and the foreigner and the Samaritan.
Not into an uninvited guest into a private meeting.
Wow, that's interesting, isn't it? What do you think Jesus did with uninvited guests? What did he do with uninvited guests? What did Jesus do with uninvited guests?
The Pharisees and the Sadducees, he got rid of them.
He got rid of them. And so you calling me a Pharisee and a Sadducee?
Cast them out.
I'm a Pharisee and a Sadducee, am I?
That's what I would say almost.
Right, okay,
You're not telling the truth. You didn't tell us the truth when you came in here.
Right.
Right. I'm glad you've done it. Thanks. That's all we need.
So you can see, and let me just explain to you again from my Catholic upbringing, that Pharisees in the religious world are sort of the people who were running the church before the Jesus character came along. They were very, very religious. They basically said everyone else was unholy. They were the only holy ones. So to call someone a Pharisee is basically calling them a religious liar. Exactly what Julian Batchelor is. Projection much? I think so.
It's always projection.
But
always projection.
The thing that confuses me, Chewie, as an innocent little guy here, is he has a real problem with lying. So I can't quite figure out how he says two things that oppose each other and it still be the truth, because it wouldn't be a lie, because nothing justifies lying, Chewie.
No, nothing at all. Straight to jail. Straight to religious jail. I want to raise a couple of side points here, right? Right throughout Julian's website and all of this is that you can get a free copy of his book, right? It's a book. It's a book he's written. He is the author of a book. Did you see the book in the priest's hands?
No.
Did you see that it had quite a bit of flex just as he's holding it?
I thought he was holding up like a pamphlet.
Correct. That is the book that Julian's talking about. I've seen it. It is a pamphlet. It is maybe 15, 20 pages.
Right.
So I love that. Serious author, Julian Batchelor, and his pamphlet. The other thing is, he says, you've lied. You're not on the list. You can't come in. Remember, he was putting out brochures in people's letterbox saying, come along to this private meeting. So it's just bullshit. There's not a shred of truth that comes out of that man's mouth at any stage. Good on that Anglican priest. Good on him.
Yeah, fucking oaths.
Like if Julian's going to stand there and say, I'm a man of religion and this is all God's plan and that sort of thing, to have another man of God stand up and go, hey, hang on, no. That's like when people talk about using your privilege, that's what it is.
Perfect. Now, let me say one quick thing. I've seen Angus in the chat tonight. Angus was on with us in Discord last week, and for that, he won himself a T-shirt. I don't think we've heard from you, Angus. So you need to make sure you get a hold of us through Twitter, through Facebook, to let us know. The drops for this month are kind of gone, but we can put you in one for next month. And also, we'll do some chats and stuff now. If anyone wants to get onto Discord right now and have a quick chat with us, you're more than welcome. The link is in the chats, but you got to do it right now, basically, because if you want to do it, we're going to be out of here in a few minutes. All you need to do is be on Discord. I'll bring it up so to show people what's going on. And over here, I can't do it that way because you won't be able to see what I'm going to say. That one. Over here, you drop yourself in this waiting room. So just drag yourself over into the waiting room, wait there, and we can come and say good day to you. And if you don't, that's all good. We just have a bit of an earlier night. But if anyone wants to jump onto Discord, you're more than welcome to, and you can do it right now. But as I said, super quick, because we're just going to go have a look at some chats now, I think, aren't we, Chewy? And then that's about it. Angus is not on social media. Okay, Angus. We'll figure that out. I'm not sure. I guess I have to start. I probably do need to start up a Gmail account, like an email address for this. I'll get onto that this week, Angus. We'll figure it out, mate. Cool. Chewy, what's in the chat? Anything we want to talk about?
Yep. Jesus, bit of a rule breaker, I think, historically.
Yeah, fucking notes he was. That's the thing I dig on him. Look, let me say, I know people I talk about my kind of religious part. I still dig on Jesus, man. Some of the stuff he did, hung out with the tax collectors and the prostitutes. He was a fucking rebel, man. If he was here today, he'd not a single blimmin', I don't know, not a single church person. He wouldn't want to go to any of these places. He was a rebel.
See,
he did complete
I'm
rebel.
not a churchy person. I've never had religion or anything like that. But I don't know enough to know that the Jesus in the book is very different from the Jesus of some of these religious groups hold up and going, we're against this. It just baffles me. It's like, have you read your fucking book?
I like that one.
Have you read it? No.
Yeah.
Free Soul here said earlier in the chat, I didn't put it up, but was actually not allowed into one of Julian's meetings, I believe this evening. Just hearing that his meeting had 4 people this afternoon and over 100 Tangata whenua were outside. Fantastic.
I was thinking about the stuff we did last night. Now, I've made 9 clips out of last night's show. I've put a couple of them out on Twitter today. I've got about 6 more to go. It's been a busy old day. I said before, I'm having a party tomorrow night. People who know the show know that my dad passed away the week of my birthday. And it's a big birthday. It's got a 0 on the end. And so we've decided tomorrow night to have a bit of a dinner sort of as a replacement. So I'm going to be super busy cleaning the fucking house for scumbag visitors like Chewy and getting dinner and stuff ready. So I'll get to it over the next wee while, but there's going to be lots of clips out there. You know what I thought? I thought some of these clips, and I actually thought the one there Victoria showed us about her arm, the damage that she solved on her arm, that's going out. Get that to the locations. Say, this is what these people are doing when people turn up and lawfully protest. This is what they're doing to people. This is what you're welcoming into your location. Get that clip to the locations, Yep.
Free Soul with another juicy little tidbit of information here. He had members of the National Front of Security last night.
Yep, I got a message about that, actually. I can actually name the person that people were seeing. Give me a second. Chris McCabe. Chris McCabe of the National Front was security at Palmerston North.
Oh, let's see what I can find out about him. It's a bit of a theme here because in Christchurch was the same deal with the notorious and serial offender for starting up race-based groups in the Christchurch area.
Yep. And look, speaking of those, we did a show 2 or 3 nights ago talking about a lot of these conspiratorial right-wing, alt-right, anti-vax, anti-mandate, anti-co-governance groups, the ties they have with legitimate Nazis. Those clips are all up over the internet and stuff that we're putting up over the wee while as well. Share them around. Like, I know everyone who does a show like this wants to be seen. Like, there's ego in this, let's be honest. We want to be seen. We want to get reach. But actually, the shows this week have been really important. That show last night was really important. I went back and did a word count. You'll probably find that me and Chewy spoke for about 20 or 30% of the time, which was what it should have been, because we were giving a very small platform to 2 people to tell very important stories. They were important stories to get out there. And that's another. I know we talk about Patreon and we talk about drops for our merch and stuff, but actually get the stories out there. That's another way you can support what we're doing. Get them out there, share them around, let people know about what's happening.
Oh yeah, Chris McCabe. Quick Google search for that guy. Actions Zealandia, Dominion Movement, Community Manager for National Front. So long time organizer for white nationalist groups. There are plenty of stories about this guy. So yeah, 100%. So that's what two events where he's definitely had white nationalists providing security.
Yeah.
And a third event where there's been someone linked to an overseas Nazi group, and again, Actions Zealandia here in New Zealand, in the room, ejecting someone, assaulting someone out of that venue.
Yeah.
So your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yep. Very good. Hey, thanks, Peter. Appreciate that. Yep. And Kim asked when my birthday was. My birthday was on the 14th of June. My dad passed away, selfish bastard, on the 13th of June. So all of the all of the celebrations there got shut down that week. I know, selfish, eh? So yeah, I was up in Auckland for that whole week through to the. We lost 8 or 9 days. Well, it sounds like a weird way to say it, like it's a problem. We were away from Dunedin for 8 or 9 or 10 days, and so all of those got cancelled. And so we've made it a lot smaller tomorrow night, and there's a bunch of people coming around just for dinner. So thanks, Peter. I mean, that'll go into the consolidated pot, I think is what we call it. Is that what the socialists call it? Something like that. And we'll use it for something to do with the show, but I appreciate the super chat. Always do. Now we've got Alex in the waiting room as well, Chewy. So when you're finished with the chitty chats, we'll grab Alex across and see what he wants to talk about. And I'm still waiting for the first kind of abusive caller. I'm sure it's going to happen at some stage. I mean, not particularly worried about it. I'm sure it'll happen. Now, I'm also seeing your voice is actually going into to speak to me, Chewy.
Hello.
Oh, what's going on? Oh no, I think it is actually. I think you are going into whatever this thing's called, Discord. Have you got your Discord turned? Oh, you are. Okay, sorry, I've seen you turn your other mic off. Well, let's just see if we can get Alex across and see what he's got to say. Very, very, very quickly. Alex, are you with us? Hello, Alex. Alex. Chewy, you can talk to me, and I'm just going to have a look to see.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah.
What is it about? I don't know. I didn't listen to late night talk back enough to come up with some ridiculous thing to talk about.
I used to just talk about things that interested me. Like, honestly, that would be all I'd ever actually do.
I think that young fella, Winston Peters, has some really good ideas.
Yeah, I was the most complained about host on Newstalk ZB for that as well, by the way.
I would proudly wear a medal saying that.
I'm just having a look because I'm just wondering if it's the settings on here. So Chewy, what's happening this weekend? What are you up to?
As little as possible because I am a lazy man. No, I'm coming around yours tomorrow night.
Yeah,
can't keep me up, and that's about it. Might go and see Oppenheimer actually.
What are you thinking about? What is it? Barbenheimer? Is that what everyone's watching at the moment?
Barbenheimer, yeah. I just love Barbenheimer is the fact that there's two diametrically opposed movies playing at the same time.
Yeah. All right. But I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to figure out. I can't really figure it out. But see, we had this the other day when Angus phoned in for the first. Oh, we've just lost him. So I guess it wasn't my end. I guess it was their end again. Never mind.
Okay.
Just like that. I was going to give away another T-shirt as well for the next drop.
We tried something. It didn't work.
We tried something. It didn't work. Never mind. All right, team. That's us for this week. JK, no, there's not a show tomorrow. We go Monday to Thursday at the moment. And that's about it for the time being. I have put in emails to all the leaders to try and do a Friday night show with us once or twice. But we'll see if they come back to us. I think the Māori Party's come back and passed it on. You're out of, just by the way, Chewy, you're out of Discord now, so you need to turn your mic back on for StreamYard. Yep, there you go. And so we'll see if they come back. So our plan was always Monday to Thursday we'll do this, and on some Fridays we'll do a long form conversation or a one-off or whatever, and we'll go from
Friday
there.
night special.
Friday night specials as they come through. But for this week, it's not. For this week, it's us and us by ourselves. At my place, having roast lamb, roast chicken, stew. My girlfriend's made a double layer chocolate cake, beersies, winesies. How's your dog going to survive being by itself for 3 minutes? I know it complains every time you leave it alone.
It's true. It's true. She is pampered. She's my little baby.
All right, we're done, guys. We will. Oh, look at mine, just literally coming through the door as we speak. We'll catch you Monday night for another edition. Appreciate your time this week. Appreciate you being with us. It's been a really good week. Follow me and Chewy on Twitter, and
give us a like.
A like before you leave, but also just get the word out there. Oh, come on, you're already favorite, Chewy. I'm gonna have to set up
entire shows where I wasn't here where you just had the dog in the window.
But I don't have that camera anymore. I have to reset up. So basically, what you're saying is I have to set up dog cam again.
Oh, I think everybody agrees.
Okay, I'll look at that over the weekend.
Yes,
I'm sure I'll have lots of time.
Mr. Anderson, you win the prize. She is a Swedish
Mr. Anderson. Okay, guys.
Name is Silva.
Well, I'm going to go, Chewy. You're going to keep here and talk about your fucking dog to these people. That's fine, but I'm out of here. I'm done. Team, we'll see you on Monday night for another edition of Big Hairy News. It's been a really good week. We'll catch you when we catch you. Have a safe weekend. Remember, come back Monday night, bring a friend, and be safe. Hooroo.
Cheers, folks.